right, we're getting close to wrapping up the week, so we'll go ahead and get started with this one. Over the last couple of breaks, there's been a lot of questions about some of the things that with Helmsley, with the grant and this and that, and I think a lot of it's going to be covered in this as well. So this is one also where the fire hose is turned off, but I need to give you guys some information because you need talking points. You need to know what to say to those people that are going to ask you about the grant. They're going to ask you about, you know, is this after 3 years, what happens? The trucks go away and is our jobs gone? Do we have a future with this? That kind of thing. And that's a lot of questions that we have. So we're going to talk a little bit about sustainability. Not the green sustainability where we decrease the carbon imprint, but why are we going to be sustainable? Well, the Helmsley Charitable Trust, for those of you, if we didn't cover it in detail before, Leona and Harry Helmsley were big real estate moguls in New York City. And some of the major buildings, I think, that are in New York, they owned those buildings. They had billions of dollars, I guess. And when they died, there's a long story.
Revenue still available then, is what?
In their thing.
In the trust, right? It's not just a certain amount.
Right, lots of money left in the trust. Yeah. So what they did is it's a long story how it became available in a charitable trust because it originally wasn't, but now a lot of it's in a charitable trust, and they have different managers for that trust, and one of them is Walter Panzier. Walter Panzier is Leona's grandson. Now he's Panzier because before marrying Helmsley, she was married to a Panzier. So Walter manages the healthcare division part of the charitable trust for the Midwest. And as I mentioned before, on the first day, he saw that there wasn't a lot of money getting put into the Midwest. And if it did, it went to the big centers. So he wanted the small areas to have access to it. But it's not without some accountability to them, and it's not without some rules for us. So just backing up a little bit more, the Helmsley Charitable Trust stated that it has to be Medi, C-A-E, Medi Company simulators because they've worked out a deal with them, and they're going to order more for the next states that come online. And the trucks have to be made by Rosenbauer America. And Rosenbauer America is doing this project only with Freightliners. So why Rosenbauer America? Well, when South Dakota applied for and got their grant from them and got this started, none of this had been around. So South Dakota actually helped design these trucks with Rosenbauer. And why Rosenbauer? It just, one of the biggest plants in the world, just happens to be 30 minutes north of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And so they approached them and said, I know you've never done anything like this, but is this something you could do? And they said, absolutely, we'll do it. And so they worked with them and designed the truck. And it worked so well down there that Helmsley said, you know what? Can we work out a deal with you, Rosenbauer? Let's make this a long-term relationship. So when we bring other states on board, the North Dakota, we can just modify the trucks to meet some of the changes that we find are needed. So that's why it's Rosenbauer America. Now, the trucks, anybody can get those trucks right now. Let's see, Saudi Arabia.
Maybe someday.
Someday, yeah, no. They actually wanted 200 trucks. When they saw this, they said, you know, we'd like to order 200 of them. Well, we're talking sustainability here. Who designed the original trucks? But the South Dakota team, the State Department of Health in South Dakota. So they're in the process of patenting these trucks. Ours isn't going to be under that patent because they haven't done it yet. But anything after this is going to be under a patent. So you have to go through the state of South Dakota before Rosenbauer to get these trucks from here on. And it's patented, so they have the right to say where they can and can't go. But they want it sustainable. So the state of South Dakota, that's going to be one of the sustainability factors to keep their system going. Because they don't have a system set up like ours. It's funded fully by the hospitals down there, and it's a huge burden for them. So That's what the Charitable Trust has us do. There are about 10 programs in the United States that have statewide programs like this. There's 2 of them that are patterned like ours, us in South Dakota. But there's only one that I can find in the nation, and talking to the people from the others, there's only one in the nation that has a cooperative venture between the 6 largest hospitals, a medical school, and a state Department of Health. All of them with equal financial input, so to speak. And then they're working together. There's not a single one. There's alliances, and they all pay into the alliance, and they all pay for their use. They all have a stake in it of their own. But there's not a single one that is like this. And that's one of the reasons that we're being watched, but I firmly believe that's one of the reasons that's going to make us sustainable. And again, the ultimate goal of any of them is just to make safer patient care, make it better. We'll have reached the whole state. This model for others we've talked about. This uniqueness that we have, we can't forget about that, because that's going to be a sustainable feature that we have. That you're going to see how that will help us grow. And then a thing about leadership and sustainability, we have to make sure that the leadership can't scuttle the ship. Make sure that the leadership of SimND isn't going to drive this thing under. So when you talk the leadership, you're talking me, you're talking the University of North Dakota, and you're talking the 6 hospitals and the Department of Health. We need to set it up so not one of them can say, okay, this is not working, this ship is going to crash. We have to build it in such a way that it's going to survive a Dr. Allen that turns crazy and wants to run off on his own and do this on his own or something. Or, yes?
Kind of along those lines, you say that the hospitals have contracted to do this. Is that for the length of the grant? Is there a chance that 5 years from now, all true, or one of the hospitals says, we're not interested in being a part of this anymore, take our truck and,
Yes, that is a possibility. It's a contract. The contract is for the 3-year period of time. After the 3 years, it's 1 year at a time. And we talked to them about the sustainability of that. And we talked about that $360,000 or $380,000 a year that it is. Every single one of the systems said, that's not very much. And for the benefit we get, we're in it for the long haul. But we couldn't write a contract without having an out clause. So yes, it is possible. But then there's, and I'll get to you, Barb, there are issues with this that would prevent them from doing that too. Because, obviously, they want to be out there. They want their faces to be noticed. And they want the benefit of the trucks too. So it's a win-win situation. But yes, in the contract, we have to write that, because we can't lock them in for 20 years. And then for some reason, they can't get out of it and they're in trouble with it. We can't allow them to get into trouble that way. Yes.
What about, we only have 2 people here this week. Is our 3rd person going to be able to watch the videos? Is that going to hinder us only having 2 people?
We decided to get you a Suburban that you can use. No. One of the things that we did, we're videotaping, as you know. The next week of training is going to be a little bit different, because it's going to be so much hands-on. But we understand that there's going to be turnover in the crews. We understand that not everybody can make it. So we have to plan for that. So in order to get on the trucks and be educating or driving or working on the trucks, you have to have completed this course. So those people that can't make it will have remedial methods to take care of this that we will provide for them. And a lot of it can be right at your own home and use the podcasts or whatever, but still there has to be some of those. You have to get back here and get some of the training here. But it'll be, I don't want to say expedited, because you have to put in the time, but you're going to have some self-directed methods on the videotapes and stuff. Yeah, so those that can't make it, yes. And then for turnover, because people are going to get married, they're going to leave, the spouse is going to get a job somewhere else, somebody retires. So there's going to be turnover forever. So that's what we're planning for. So another sustainability piece. Pardon me?
What qualifications do you look for in more staff?
At your own institution, you mean?
What do you, because like we have a supervisor who would train and bring on board, or?
We send out job descriptions for the nurse educator, the driver educator, and the tech educator. All the hospitals have those job descriptions. You are hired based on those as guidelines. Now, they're not hard and fast, because I can't tell any single hospital that they absolutely have to have 5 years of critical care or ambulance or ER. If I said that, maybe half of you wouldn't be here. I don't know. But so we gave it as guidelines, and we asked them, you need to hold to that as much as possible. But we understand that you have to change a little bit. Yes. Yep. And if we were unbendable, we wouldn't get anybody. And we understand that we're going to get people who may have never touched a simulator and have very little critical care type of experience. They're going to have to get some of that, and they're going to get some of the training here. And it's just that, you know what it's like. If I'm up here as your medical director and have never taken care of a patient, I've never, I went through medical school, then just did research all my life, and I'm trying to tell you how to do this stuff, I don't stand much credibility with you. And the same thing as an educator, that if the educator doesn't have that background and they're out there teaching these rural people, and the rural people have a lot more experience than the educator, that could be a little problem. But
So when we go out, we're going to have everybody, is it going to switch up? Is it, say there's only 3 of us, do we all play the same, different roles, or you just have, that's their title?
Let's say each hospital has 2 teams of 3, so that's 6 people. There's going to be 2 drivers at least. So the 2 drivers are going to be the only 2 alternating doing the driving. The rest of them, you can alternate roles. You're going to have at least 1 and maybe 2 nurses who will be team leaders, but at least 1 team leader. And that person may not go out with the 2 that he or she usually goes out with, because they could substitute amongst those teams. So it doesn't have to be only these 3 can go and only these 3 can go. It's going to be so standardized and everything that you can interchange. So yeah, that's variable too. So here's the states that have either an alliance, a consortium, or a network type of thing. These states right here. And they've done a very good job of it. And some of the directors, especially Oregon with Michael Seropian, those folks have a well-established alliance. But it's different than what we have. And the way they sustain their alliance is that everybody has their own separate units. They may have an ambulance. They may have a Suburban that takes it out. They may have a motorhome that's got mobile simulation. But in order to be part of the alliance, each one of them has to pay a fee. What does the alliance do? They help them with education. They help them with meetings. They share simulation scenarios and things, but they don't own the equipment. And the financial part of the equipment is all on the individuals. Some of them survive, some of them struggle hard. Some of them are very busy, some of them aren't very busy at all. Different types of scenarios. And then there's some single programs, like in Missouri. They have one huge motorhome with quite a few simulators in it, and Dina Higbee and her partner are the single person shows. And they take their bus out to the site in rural Missouri, and the other one drives a car. They go out there and they spend half a day and they orient the team to the truck, and they leave the truck there for 2 days, and then they go back to their home base. And they let the crews out there run their trucks, or run their bus, I mean. And so when I talked to her about that, she says, well, it's finally working okay. But in the beginning, we'd leave it out and we'd sit there and watch with them. They fumbled. They could not, they got all this equipment and they didn't have a lot of training, so it was very difficult for them. But then they got people all over the state wanting it, and they have to get in line, and it may be 6 months before they can get it to their institution, because they just have to follow an order. They've got a great system, but that's the way it could work in Missouri. South Dakota, I'm sure you're familiar with South Dakota's, but if not, 3 centers, 2 hospitals in Sioux Falls and 1 in Rapid City, each have a truck. The State Department of Health got those trucks and they turned them over to the hospitals to manage them on their own. The teams have similar protocols, and they developed it so they have a standardized curriculum, so to speak, but at Sanford they train differently than they would at Rapid City, and they don't share everything together like we're doing, and their funding is dependent on each individual hospital, and one may have more into it than another, and they do work reasonably well together, but there's nothing that says that they must work together. And there's nothing that says it's not about their hospital. So then it becomes, who are we going to call? Here's a place that's close to Sioux Falls. Well, we send people to Avera and to Sanford. Who should we call when we want to have this? And so it becomes a little bit more difficult in allegiances and stuff. Then one of them gets a whole lot of business where the other may not go for 3-4 weeks at a time. And one of the things that Helmsley said, in order for you guys to keep going, we understand that you're going to all have to get as much equal time on that thing as you can, or there's going to be different learning, there's going to be different skill levels and everything. So theirs works well for them. It probably wouldn't work well here because we have more health systems in the state than they do. But they have one of them that's a lot bigger than our health system. So it's a different situation. So what do I mean by sustainability, and what do we have to be sustainable? Well, first of all, we have to create a substantive value. There has to be something good about this that's going to make it worthwhile to keep it going. We have to have political legitimacy. People have to know about us. We have to get in the pockets. We have to get under the skin of those people who carry some weight around the state. And then the operations, all the way down to the ground level, we have to keep nurturing that to keep it going so that our funding will keep coming, that our desire and that the energy that everybody has will keep it going as well. The most important of these, obviously, is at the top, and that's creating value. So I'll cover the value part of it at the last here. So nurturing operations. We have to know what the governance is. The governance, how is it controlled? Who has the strings to do this and who has the strings to do that? One of the things that we set this up with is it's not just ND Star that tells you everything and that we do everything and you have to do it our way. No, part of the governance starts with oversight from the State Department of Health. The State Department of Health has the power to tell me and to tell UND, we think you're doing something wrong and we've got to change it that way. So from that standpoint, they have the power to do that. Even though the grant resides at UND and me as the principal investigator, we retained not the right, but we retained them and wanted them as oversight so that we're not just out there kind of wildcatting it on our own. We want somebody to pull us back. I have an advisory group when we write scenarios, when we're doing things. It's not all what John Allen wants or what Ralph Levitt, who works with us here, or Dr. McCann or Dr. Wynn wants. It's not what we want here. It's what the subspecialty areas want and they think is best for the state of North Dakota. The other thing that's going to sustain it by nurturing operations is we have a core curriculum. Our core curriculum is what we're giving you, and it's going to be our standard protocols that we're all going to be using the same way. And when somebody from one hospital can just jump on a truck from another hospital with people they don't know really well, you know them now because you're meeting them, but when you know them well enough and you know the protocols well enough and you know the trucks, you can just jump right in, and teaching with it is going to be fairly easy. That's going to be sustainable. But what do you think it would be like if somebody from Trinity has to go to Bismarck and get on the Bismarck truck, and it's totally different? And the trucks are arranged a lot differently, and they have different protocols, and they say, no, this is the way we do it here. It's totally different, and they're thinking, this is really difficult. You can see that that's never going to happen again. The people aren't going to work together again, and they're not going to have that cohesiveness, which hopefully will lead to sustainability. Common policy and procedure. We'll get that the last week. We have a big policy and procedure manual that you guys will get. It'll be on the trucks, but we do need to go over it so you'll have some ideas about it. Everybody's on the same page. Standards, again, we're going to hold to different standards that we're going to keep. We're going to do it the right way, and we're going to do it very well. We think you guys already are, but if we hold the standards and everybody tries to meet the standards, remember, standards aren't the absolute rule. Standards are guidelines, but this is what everybody adheres to, and these are the gold standards or the best that's out there, the guidelines and standards from the different specialties, subspecialty areas. And the other thing that will make it sustainable is the infrastructure, and that I'll put equipment in there as well. The equipment's the same in every place. It's like, is anybody familiar with the operations of Southwest Airlines? One of the most successful airlines in the industry. What's one of the things with their equipment that makes them successful? They don't fly multiple different airplanes. They fly the Airbus 320, I think it is, or one of the Airbus. That's their aircraft, so that everything is identical. It's all the same. They don't fly puddle jumping across the United States. They don't fly to the Caribbean. They don't fly to South America and Asia. They have their operations are all the same. They've standardized their operations. And hence, they've been more sustainable and more in the black in their books than any other airlines because of some of that. External resources. We have to look a lot for external resources. What will make us sustainable in terms of external resources? Always looking for someone else or something else that can support us. External to us is CAE Medi, the company that is giving us we're buying the simulators from. It's Rosenbauer. It's the University of North Dakota. It's the hospital systems and what they have outside of them. It's some of their buying power. It's all that stuff that we may be able to tap into that will help keep us sustainable. So political legitimacy. You know, Dr. Kelly, President Kelly, who you met on Wednesday, I've had him come over and teach a course on rural healthcare policy at the med school for the med students. And he starts out by talking about there's a lot of politics involved in this. And he says, do you know what politics is? And the students are, we think they give a few things, but politics, it's two words, poly and ticks. Poly is multiple, and ticks are blood-sucking insects. So that's politics. That's his joke of the year. And he gets the students going pretty good. We need to know our supporters, we need to know our blockers, and we need to know our neutrals. Right now, the governor and the legislature are neutral. I went and talked to the legislature, I talked to the governor personally, and told him about SimND. And I told him, I promise you, you're going to see good things happening. He said, what do you want from us? I said, watch us. I want you to be aware of what SimND is. I want you to be aware, and I listed the 6 hospital systems, of what they're putting into this. Look at, they've got skin in the game. And just watch what we're going to do for the state of North Dakota. I just said, I have no doubt that this is going to really work. And I said, I'll be back in 2015 when you guys meet for the next legislative session. And at that time, let's talk about what you guys can do for us. But when I come back, I want to have behind me the fact that you've seen this really works. And you guys are going to say, wow, we're on board and we're in this group. There's going to be blockers out there. There's going to be people say, this is high tech, this is a lot of money. If somebody gave you $5 million and you squandered it on these big trucks and simulators for Pete's sake, why don't you just jump in a van and take your team out and go teach right at the hospitals? That $5 million could have been put into this. There's going to be people out there that are going to say that. Am I going to have an argument with them? I think I will. But do you guys? Can you help support us? If you can't, you can't. If you can, please do. But I think there are going to be those people there, so we have to be prepared for them and understand they are very legitimate in their concerns. There may be some ignorance there. There may be some anger there. We don't know. But we're going to have those kind of blockers. The perception that other people have as well. So what is SimND? So when you go out to a small town hospital, what is their perception of you? Are you the white horse that's going to fly in and tell them what they do wrong? Or are you the team that's going to come and save the day and they really like that? Or are you their colleagues that work together with them? I mean, it's their perception. And sometimes it may be all of that. They may like that. I don't think too many places are going to not like you. I think they all know of you and your systems, and I think they're going to like that a lot. I talked a little bit about leadership proof. We want to make it so that we can't crumble upon ourselves. That's part of what the oversight's for, getting the 6 hospitals equally involved, and the University of North Dakota School of Medicine with education background and with our SIM Center. So all of us are contributing, and it's not as if it's all equal parts, but in a way it is, so that we all keep each other accountable. And then we have to get some relationships between key people. That's what we're doing here. You guys are key people. Your administrators are the key people. Your supervisors are key people. Dr. Hallis is a real key person, and Dr. Wynn, because all they would have to do is say, nope, we're not going to do this. And it took some convincing with Dr. Wynn. He's very methodical in thinking through things. And when he got the picture, it's like he's given us full reign. So we really had to have him on board, or this wouldn't have happened. The State Department of Health, Dr. Terry Dwelly, our state health officer, we had to get him on board. So we've got these relationships going that now they will fight for us. They may not know everything that's going on, but I can go to Dr. Wynn and say, hey, we're having this problem. You know, the state motor pool, this and that. We're having to deal with the state legal counsel on this issue. I need some help from you. So I'll brief him. He'll do his research. Then he'll go to bat for us. And that's a lot of power when you have somebody like that for you. Here's some of the musts. And that's going to help us with the political legitimacy. We have to have an annual report with data that we have to send to the Helmsley Foundation. The Helmsley Foundation, the board of directors is in New York. I'm not sure how many of them are on the board, but these are all people who know everything about us. They know the hospitals, they know the medical school, the State Department of Health. They know what we're doing this week because we've had to be right out in front with them on everything. And I've already filed one interim report a few weeks ago about this upcoming session. And so we have another interim report due early this summer. And then we have an annual report. The annual report is the information that we're going to gather from you. We'll talk about that down the road. But all that information comes in, we correlate it, and then we have to get that to them as well. They have to see all this stuff, including outcomes. But that will help with political legitimacy because we have all that information for that annual report, and we can prepare that annual report for the state of North Dakota. Here's what your SIMND has done. Senators, representatives, 2015. Here's our annual report for the last 2 years. Here's what we have done. We've gone from here to here to here. Patients' lives are living longer. They're giving less time to cath. All this. This is the benefit that this is giving us. Here's our report. Look at this, and we'll talk more about it. The high-level personnel, we've already talked about legislature. Something that already has legitimacy, we need to leverage. So what do you think is involved in SIMND that already has legitimacy that we have to leverage with us?
We're all in one room, all working.
We're a cohesive group already. So going forward, the legitimacy to everybody else is we have 6 hospital systems here represented. I don't see a single problem. This has been, this has been a dream. So there's one.
We've already shown that simulators work for training in medical students, so that's already got legitimacy that it works. You're just adding the legitimacy that it can work for rural.
2 things there. There's literature to support that simulation works. Number 2, we use simulation already in this medical school, and it's working in our medical school. So there's experience with this type of stuff in the state. That's legitimacy. What else do we have? We have the 6 hospital systems. You can't live in North Dakota without knowing something about the 6 hospital systems in this state. They're powerful. Everybody knows them, and they utilize them. That's political legitimacy. There's one med school in the state, and the med school is one of the best in the nation. If you look at the ratings, we're in the top, we're like 1, 2, or 3 in the top rural medical schools, and we're in the top third of all of North America in the medical schools and how our students do and how our curriculum is. Political legitimacy. We got a state Department of Health that has developed things beyond simulation, but developed things that other states look to because they do it so well. We've got political legitimacy built up in there. We have to be willing to take a back seat. Lots of things have happened before this week and behind the doors that you guys aren't aware of, but there's been a lot of back seats taken. We had to bow to some other people. We had to do a lot of giving to get where we're at. But if we gave this, we would be guaranteed that we'd have something for long term. And we're going to end up doing lots of those things down the road. I don't know what a back seat is down the road, but some days SimND might just have to step back for a moment or due to something else. I don't know what it is, but we have to be willing to do that and look, but keep the engines running just in case, because then we'll get right back into it. And then we have to nurture others along. Who are the others? Pardon me? New people. We have to nurture new people along. They can't be outsiders coming in. We got to bring them on board and get them as part of the team. How about other areas in North Dakota that do simulation? How about University of Mary, Minot State University, Jamestown College, Jamestown University, I guess they're all universities, aren't they? So what about those? You know, we're not part of them right now. But as somebody already mentioned, they're going to be looking to us to say, hey, how can you guys help us? And we looked at divisioning. Somebody mentioned we should get out to these places. That we can nurture them along. And even if it's not in these next 3 years, somebody from one of those universities would like to talk to you about it, we'll give them advice, we'll teach them, we'll do what we can, because they're our colleagues in a sense. They just do it at a different area than we do. So here's value. So one of the big things we have to have that, we have to have a team. And I talked to our team at ND Star last week, and I said, you know, is this just wacky or whatever? When I think of the term team SimND, is that just vogue or that just, you know, so we talked about that and we agreed we can't say this is team SimND because we're not a team yet. But I'll fight for the fact that I think we are team SimND now. Everybody is working together. We have a team effort here. We got to get promotion. And how do you get promotion? And by promotion, I mean to get value for the team. That means in the medical school, promotion means more than just going up in rank. It means there's something that I can get for that. I have research or mentoring opportunities. So if I'm going to come and be a professor at UND, what's in it for me? How can I improve myself? Well, you can get involved in research. You could publish if you want. You could get grants. You could do this. You have this interest. Well, you can dig into that interest. You can do that. You can also have mentoring possibilities. Well, Dr. Allen, we know that you've got this area of expertise in internal medicine, or we know that you really enjoy this part of teaching. We have a new instructor. How would you like to mentor that person along? And you know, as an instructor and as a professional, it's kind of fun to be a mentor, isn't it? So it's kind of nice to mentor somebody so people take that as a value. Conferences. You know, our grant doesn't give us money to send you guys all to the World Conference every year, but we have money for that. And hopefully your hospitals are going to see the benefit and then help out with some of that as well. But if we can't send you to the World Conferences, we want to be able to bring things out to you. I'm not sure how that's going to look. You guys are going to help us figure that out. But we're going to do faculty and staff development with you. We're going to give you guys educational things. We're going to help bring you to the next level. Because you know what would make me feel really good? Is if one of you says, well, you know, it's been fun with SimND, but you know, I'm moving to Nebraska next month. And I really like what I learned here, but I got to move. Wouldn't it be nice if what you got from us at SimND, you are the one who helped develop Sim, Nebraska. You wrote a grant with Helmsley, and you got a program that was going, and you got to move up the line. Somebody mentioned also, hey, is there some area where we can maybe get more education? I'm an RN now, but gee, I might like to go to become a nurse practitioner. I'd like to be a PA. Is there some way we can move up the line? Oh, if we can do that kind of stuff, that's great. Leadership. It certainly gives a chance to be a leader in medical education, because we're doing medical education in like places North Dakota haven't done before. So we want to give you a chance to do some leadership. So somehow there's going to be more leadership opportunities. That's promotion. I can't take you from a master sergeant or a tech sergeant to a master sergeant to, I'm not military, lieutenant, all that. That's not the promotion we're talking to, but within your own facility, if you have promotional kind of things, and this adds to your CV that would allow you promotion, that's even great. And also, what's in it value for you? Financial. So financial for you, you'll get reimbursed by your hospital system. The grant will reimburse it for that. And then when the grant is done, they'll keep doing that. How about for the future operation? That's where what's going to be value? I need to prove value so I can get the state to see value so they give us value, financial value. That's what we're looking for. Concept of minimal level to pass. When I first came to the med school, clinical skills, it was 70 to 75%, and you could pass your clinical skills. So when they did a physical exam for grade, if they got 70 or 75, they'd pass. And that bothered me. And I don't know if that bothers you, but that would bother me. Because I think, why is it 70, well, let's say 70, why is it 75%? And so I started looking into it. I could find no hard reason why it was 75% here. So I looked at the rest of the country. I called medical schools. What are you doing? 70%, 75%. They all did 70 or 75. Why? Well, that's the way it's always been done. There was no basis for why it's 70 or 75%. So I presented to our medical curriculum committee at the time. I said, I think it needs to be 80%. I didn't get anywhere. So I came back a few months later. It really needs to be 80%. There is no basis for 75% here. You can't find it. So they said, well, let us look. They couldn't find it. And the reason was 75 when they set up the curriculum, because that's what Missouri did, because we patterned after Missouri. So it was 75. And they just weren't willing to go up to 80 because they just thought, that 5%, that's a lot. We're going to lose. We're going to have a lot of dropouts here. And I said, well, look at it this way. Ryan is one of our medical students, and he just graduated, and he's going on to a neurosurgical residency. Okay? Kyle's going to the neurosurgical residency as well. They're both my students. They're both really good. But Kyle, when Kyle came in, he would get in the class, and he'd look, and he'd sit back, didn't talk much, and he just minimum level to pass. He never worked harder, but he always got 75, 76%. But Ryan is always in my office challenging me, asking me those questions I couldn't always answer. I had to go look for him. Ryan was always up there at 85, 90, 95, 98% on all his clinical skills. His preceptor said, he's the guy I want working at my side. Wonderful kind of guy. So you're in the emergency room. These two guys come walking in, and you have your pick. Which one are you going to have operate on your aneurysm? If that's all you know about him, I know who I'm going to pick. I don't mean either of you are 85%ers or more, but I know who I'm going to pick. And so there was some talking there, and they said, I just said, Dr. So-and-so, where were you when you were in med school? Were you minimum level to pass at 75? Or were you the one that really strove to get better, and you were really doing well and really wanted that position? And they just said, we got it, Dr. Allen. And so they passed. It went up to 80%. And you know what? No more students failed than we're at 75%. But it's that minimum level to pass. It's that mentality, if I can just get by. That's not where we want to be. We want to be at a much higher level. We're not perfect, but we want to be higher than that. You guys are experts in your field. and now you're experts in simulation field as well. And we'll take on challenges. If we just learn what we're going to do and then just keep on going on the status quo, we actually, the status quo is deterioration, At status quo, the culture and the needs climb and climb and climb. But if we maintain the status quo, we're just not going to get anywhere. That's like the professors at the university who use the same PowerPoints, the same handouts that they used 10 years ago. They never change them. They're all the same. So if you want to get through the class, you just talk to somebody who took it last year. You get all the notes. You never go to class. Oh, you got a copy of the test too. You just walk in and take it. Nobody learns. So the status quo is really deterioration. So we want to take on challenges. And I know in your field, in nursing and paramedics, you guys are challenged all the time. So that's not an issue for us here. Just because you have experience doesn't make you an expert. It's beyond that. It's a lot of head knowledge and that experience and the ability to reason beyond that, the ability to think deeper. That's what can make the experts. They like superior performance. There's novices. The novices play by the rules, which is a good thing. But the experts, they have that intuition. They have that extra sense. So now I've got all the knowledge. I've got all the experience. But I've got that extra sense that says I can anticipate a little bit forward of the needs. I can anticipate that, I need to know this. I need to get a more challenged culture so I can learn more and teach more. Ian Curran, he runs a simulation system in London, England. It's just fun to listen to him speak. Our team went to the IMSH in January and heard Ian Curran give one of the plenary sessions, and I was also in a breakout session with him. But he said, you have to get this down. There is a fundamental difference between cost and value. A lot of places put cost and value the same. $5 million to put this system together, it's got to be good. It doesn't have to be good for the $5 million. But what's the value of the system? Do we add something back? Is that $5 million worth its money? And he also said in the same session, he said, do not do anything in terms of sustainability or cost because of compliance, because I have to, because I'm playing by the rules. You must be committed to it. And again, you folks wouldn't have given up a week away from your family, your kids, your comfortable job. You wouldn't have given that up if you weren't committed. But these are two things that he just kind of said off the cuff at these meetings and really triggered a lot of discussion in the audience. And I really think that truly states what value is all about. So what's going to prevent us from being sustainable? What's going to hurt us? What's going to cause this program to fail? If we don't identify our unique value, the unique value for us, we've got 4 trucks, 6 health systems, a university medical school, and a state health department all buying in to working together. That is probably the strongest value that we have. We have other value in the stuff that we're playing with is well accepted, well studied, and is known to do well. So if we don't understand all of that, we just have fun with some have fun with some expensive equipment, we're not understanding what our value is. Decisions which don't value the team. So can you imagine if John Allen says, okay, we're gonna do this right now. This is gonna be a change that we're gonna make in SimND. But I'm not making that decision and valuing each of you individually. It benefits UND, but it doesn't benefit SimND at all. That isn't going to go anywhere. That's going to eventually erode what we're standing for. Fear. I mean, it can be fear of the future. It can be fear of financial things. It can be fear of competition. It can be all kinds of those fears. And the fear of competition, believe it or not, is the one thing that Helmsley was really worried about. And when we wrote the grant and they said, okay, you prove to us how Hospital A isn't going to beat down Hospital B and insist that they're going to be the ones that are going to run this system. Prove to us how you can do that. That's how we went through a long process but came up with this system. So that fear is still going to be there a little bit, but as we develop our team and our administrations all understand how we work, I think that'll be less. If we don't shoot for the stars and at least hit the moon, we got to have a vision. If we don't have metrics to account for costs, we've worked that one over real well, and without Amy, I couldn't do it. Amy is our accountant. She knows money inside and out and has worked with grants and contracts, and we've worked together with all the hospital administrations in our financial department with this, so we know where the money is, where the money's going to go, even after year 4. And just so you guys know a little bit more about it, in year 1, the grant covers 100% of the salaries of the people on the trucks. 2 FTEs, but there's 3 of you. But we're covering 2 FTEs because it's not a full-time position. So 2 FTEs will cover 3 people on the trucks, well enough. But the first year goes from April to the end of July, or April to the end of June, or April to the end of July. That's year 1, because the grant got given to us in June, and the grant period started August 1st. Well, none of you were involved or had much to do with this until now. So the grant starts 100% reimbursement of 2 FTEs starting in April. So this year of 100% reimbursement ends in July 31st. Then year 2, the grant will cover 66% of that. Then the hospitals have to pick up 33% of the 2 FTEs of whatever the financial and in-kind stuff is. It's that. In the third year, the grant will pick up 33%, so the hospitals pick up 66%. The only difference is the University of North Dakota doesn't have a 66, 33, whatever percent, except for my salary. I don't get any more for doing this job at all. My salary is on contract, it stays the same. But my salary reimbursement, 66.33, goes to the dean. So that the dean can make up for the time that I put in this. He can say, well, Alan isn't teaching as much in the medical school, or he's not directing this. So we had to move him out of that, so we lost that funding. So he'll use that funding just to cover my salary. So none of us at ND Star have any more salary because of this. None of it comes to us. It goes to the medical school. And after my salary, the 100 for this part, 66 and 33, then the medical school has absolutely no, they have no reimbursement for everything. It's all the money that they put in. So
100% and in July of 2013 or
13.
14?
So the 100% for the first year is only for April, May, June, and July. It's only 4 months for the first year because staff didn't come on board until April. So that 100%. Then August 1st to July 31st of 2014, it's 66%. If that makes sense?
Is there any chance that in 3 years you can go back to Helmsley and say, look at what good we've done? You know, is there any chance that you can continue to help us now that this grant has ended? You know?
There's a great chance of that. Whether they give it, I don't know, but they're watching us because we're their next gem, so to speak. So they're watching, and if they see a lot going on, and we see some tremendous needs that we just can't meet because of financial things, we'll be able to talk to them. Yeah, that's in the books. Them and the State Department of Health and all other agencies, absolutely. Uncontrollable factors. There's going to be some things that maybe we didn't integrate something into this. And I don't know what all these uncontrollable factors may be. But an uncontrollable factor to me, if I think about it, would be, what if Altru suddenly goes belly up and Mayo Clinic bails them out, for example. So now we've got an out-of-state entity that says, hey, we have our own mobile simulation. We're just not going to buy into that. But since we're in North Dakota at Altru now, we're going to bring our simulation over. We've all of a sudden got a competitor that isn't going to let us off the hook. I don't think that's going to happen, but you know, those are the kinds of uncontrollable things. And then there's many more that you guys can think of as well. So any questions or thoughts on sustainability, how it's set up? I want this totally visible. I want this transparent. There's nothing hidden here whatsoever. That's part of sustainability too. So you guys know everything. Your administration knows it. We've been there several times. So, all right, the food's out there. So if you all want to go out and get some food, and then we'll come on back in. And then Dr. Yearwood gave us a bunch of handouts, and obviously Jamie and I and everybody, we can't do what Dr. Yearwood does, but he gave us some questions and things to ponder. So when you get those, just kind of look over while you're eating, and we'll kind of make some discussions at that time, and then we'll head afterwards into the last part of our day.